Welcome to the Backyard Farmer. I'm David. Today we're going to talk about summer sausage, delicious smoked sausage, fully cooked, that you'll package. You can freeze it and it'll last for a long time. You can eat it fresh, but it is fully cooked. Once you're finished, it'll last about a week and a half or 2 weeks. It does have cure in it. I usually get my kit from Southern Indiana Butcher Supply. You can Google them on the intraweb, and they'll mail order. You can just pay for it with a credit card. They'll mail order you the kit, which comes with the casings and the spice and the cure that you put in. Then you supply your own game meat. You can use venison or wild boar. Ours is a combination of wild boar and a bit of domestic pork in the form of a pork shoulder, a little bit of domestic fat as well. So here we go, summer sausage from the Backyard Farmer. Enjoy. Okay, so the first and most important thing to do is start with fresh meat. So really what goes inside the sausage is meat and spice and maybe a little bit of vegetable or something or other. Today with summer sausage, it's mostly meat with some cure and spice and of course some smoke. So what we've got here is boar in the top right corner, a chunk of a leg, fairly big leg with a bone through it. We're going to mix that to kind of mellow it out a bit with some domestic pork, and these are pork shoulders that you would make pulled pork. And of course fat. Fat is the key ingredient for flavor. So this is domestic pork fat that they just carve literally right off of the top of the animal. And look at that. That's 2 layers. But look at how much fat is on a domestic hog. Whereas a boar is very, very lean and, as you can see, has very little fat. So once we mix it all together, we've got summer sausage deliciousness. So we're going to chop this up into reasonably usable chunks, and then we're going to send it through the grinder. And all the while, one of the most important things is to keep it cold. So it's going to go into this small bowl. Then we're going to have this tub filled with ice. And it's going to sit in this other tub on top of the ice. If you don't keep it cold, the fat separates from the meat and it just doesn't work in the sausage. So the meat on the right, this red stuff, that's the wild boar. And the meat on the left is an organically raised domestic hog. But you can really tell the difference. Look at that red. It's lean, not a lot of fat. But the reason why you need to mix it with the domestic hog is because of the fat, and it's a bit more tender. So you mix them together, you've got enough fat for the sausage to kind of bind together, and of course a lot of the flavor comes from the fat. But it is a huge difference in the animal and the amount of fat that the animal has. The hogs don't run around, they're stuck in a pen and they're just sitting there eating. And the boars are out there feeding and running around and fighting and breeding, and they'll put on 10-20 miles a day. So it's a big difference. Just wanted to point that out. So now we're grinding these chunks of meat, and this is how it comes out ground. This is the first grind. So we're just doing kind of a very thick, what's called a 3/16 grind. And that just gives you the initial grind. Then we put all the spices in it, and we let it sit, and we let it run through the grinder again. So the next step after we've ground our meat is to take the cure, which is really part preservative and part something that helps kind of bind the meat together. And we dissolve that cure in ice water. Has to be ice cold because we're actually adding it to the cold meat, which you never want to cool down. We also take the casings, which are some sort of a man-made structure, I think. Actually, I'm not sure what these casings are made out of, but you have to soak them in warm water for about a half an hour before you fill them. So it's not like regular sausage where these are kind of edible casings. I don't think it's something that's going to hurt you if you eat it, but it's really not meant like regular sausages to be eaten. Anyway, we soak those for a half an hour. We dissolve the cure in ice cold water. Okay, so now we've got 25 pounds of boar and domestic pork and fat all ground up one time through the 3/16 grinder. And the next step is to take the spice package, and what I do, I send away for it. It's called Legs Old Plantation Spice Mix. This is made specifically for summer sausage. I get the kit from the Southern Indiana Butcher Supply. They have all sorts of kits for different sausage making. So they supplied the casings, they supplied the cure, and they supplied the spice. So what we're going to do is put a little bit at a time of the spice into the meat. We're going to put a little bit at a time of the cure into the meat. And this is ice cold. Again, it's really important to keep your meat ice cold so that the fat and the meat doesn't separate. So I'm going to freeze my little fingers off by mixing this by hand. So now we run this hand mixed mixture through the grinder one more time. We've got a much smaller grid here. This is like a 1/8 of an inch, and that's going to just grind it all back together one more time, and then we're going to stuff the sausage. So then everything is ground up. We've ground it through the finer plate, and this is the finished product. We've mixed it up. It's very sticky, which is good. You want it to bind together. Then we've got this contraption. This is the the meat holder. We'll call it the meat holder, and this is the sausage maker. It's an old German one called an F-Dick. Love the F-Dick. Anyway, very efficient, works great. And so what we do is we take all the meat and we put it in this meat holder, and you get as much as you can in there because it's important to try and get as much air out of there as you possibly can. So we've filled the container with meat. We've smushed it down as best we can to get the air bubbles out. And then we put this big container into the sausage stuffer. And you can hear the air coming out of there. And basically we're going to get ready to make the sausage. So this is the casing, and one end is tied. What you want to do is put it on the tube as far as you can. And really the objective here is to stuff the sausage as tight as possible, getting all air out of it as best you can. So here we go. This is how the sausage is made. But it's a delicate balance between stuffing it too tight and breaking the casing. So we're just going to kind of see how it goes and make sure that we're pushing it as far back as we can. Voila! One large summer sausage. But you can see there's a little air bubble in there. So I'm going to go back and try and squeeze this down as best I can to eliminate the air bubble. I might just take some out. So that I can squeeze it tight. But you got to be careful because they do need to be. This needs to be closed pretty darn tight because there's so much fat in this. As we're smoking it in the smoker, we want to try to not have too much fat fall into the bottom of the smoker for fear of causing a fire or something. So there you have it. Not yet smoked summer sausage. So we stuff the sausages, we put them in the fridge to just sit and kind of soak up the flavors, and that was for probably 5 or 6 hours. Now, before we put them on the smoker, we're going to hang them for a good couple, 3-4 hours just to get to room temperature so that when they start getting hot in the smoker, they won't, they'll have an internal temperature that's at room temperature. So this is going to be an all-day process of putting the sausages into the smoke. We're going to let them sit in there for about 2 hours at about 100 degrees without smoke, and about 2 to 4 hours with smoke, and probably another 4 to 6 hours without smoke. So it's going to be an all-day thing. This is what it looks like as they're going in. All right, got about a few minutes of smoke going here. I'm using some hickory chips. So I'm going to do about 2 hours of smoke, maybe 3 hours of smoke, and then I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to let it keep cooking until it gets to about 155, 160 degrees. I don't want to open it up because then it'll take forever to kind of heat back up. It's really chilly today, but we got some smoke going. We're going to lay on some heavy hickory onto this summer sausage. Okay, so it's pretty much the moment of truth. They've been in all day. It's night now, although at daylight savings time it's only like 5 o'clock or something. Anyway, they've been in for probably 10 hours, starting at 90 degrees up to about 180. Smoked 4 or 5 hours of smoke. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the sausages out and we're going to put them directly into this ice bath. And that will stop them from continuing to cook. It'll make everything kind of solidify up because there's a ton of fat. Here we are, the moment of truth. Let's see what they look like. Oh yeah, look at that. Beautiful smoked summer sausage. So here's all the sausages in the ice bath. We're going to just let it sit there for 15 minutes or so until it totally cools down. Again, stops the cooking process. Then we'll take the water out. We'll keep the sausages in the refrigerator overnight to let them totally cool, and then we will cut and slice and package them tomorrow. So they came out of the smoker, they went into the ice bath, then after they cooled down I put them in the tub, put them in the refrigerator overnight, and basically now we have a cooled sausage. And what happened is with this one, and it didn't happen the last time, but a lot of the fat separated. So as you can see here along in the casing, the fat went to the outside and the meat stayed on the inside. So what I've done is I have taken the casing off and basically scraped all that fat off. And now all we have is the meat. The casing isn't edible anyway. So we've got this delicious looking meat. Little piece of mustard on that and you've got magic. What I'm going to do, because it's not even Thanksgiving yet and we're going to give these out as Christmas presents, is put them in a seal-a-meal. Seal them up, put them in the freezer where they'll last probably up to a year or so because they're flash sealed, and this is a great way to preserve them and use them for Christmas presents. So if you don't have a vacuum sealer, it's pretty easy. You just take a piece of this wax paper and you roll it up, and then you put butcher paper and you use some tape, and it's kind of old school packaging. That way it should still work well in the freezer in that case. That's summer sausage from the Backyard Farmer. It is a good couple of days of work, you know, not full days each day, but definitely give yourself a weekend with probably a Friday on one side, because by the time you grind everything and stuff it and smoke it and then actually cut it up and package it with your Backyard Farmer 777 Fawn Farms packaging, it is definitely the good part of a weekend. In any case, it's well worth it, and it makes for great gifts and makes for great snacking, and you can do a lot of different things with it. You can fry it up, put it in a sandwich. You can put a little dab of mustard on it, on some bread or crackers, or just eat it plain. If this video was helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. I hope this was helpful to you, and enjoy the sausage.